In a first-person camera, we firstly need to set the position of the camera to the approximate position of the head and rotate it as the player moves their mouse. To begin, I'm going to add a local script inside the starter player scripts. This will be the script for the camera system. I'm going to add a bool value inside the script. This will determine if the camera is enabled or not. I'm going to reference it inside the script and then I'm going to get the camera. I'm going to create a few variables which will hold the different parts of the character. And then, whenever the character is added, we can update these variables. Here when we try to get the torso, we check both for the torso and the upper torso. One is used for R6 and the other is used for R15. I'm going to get the run service and use the render stepped event. This runs before each time the frame gets rendered. Through this, the player won't see the camera before we set it. Here, I'm also going to get the user input service. I'm going to create a function which will update some extra values. Here, as we want the mouse to be invisible when we are in first person, we can set the mouse icon enabled value of the user input service to the opposite of enabled. Now if the camera is enabled, we can set the camera type to scriptable and then we can lock the mouse. If not, we can do the opposite. Now depending on if the camera is enabled or disabled, we can call the function. Here we also check if the character exists or not before running the camera scripts. Now we can freely position the camera. We can set the camera's position by changing its C-frame. We can base the position from either a body part or the humanoid root part. Both of them have their upsides and downsides, but it's just a matter of personal preference. To do this, we get the torso or the humanoid root part C-frame and offset it by another C-frame. Now we need to rotate the camera. Here, through the getMouseDelta method of the user input service, we can get the change in pixels of the position of the player's mouse in the last rendered frame as a vector 2, but only if the mouse is locked. Now we will create a value which will hold the direction of the camera. In a display, the x-axis goes to the right and the y-axis goes downwards. While doing the rotation of an object in Roblox Studio, the x-axis goes upwards and the y-axis goes to the left, meaning we need to negate and swap the x and y values to get the correct output, so we update the values accordingly. Here I'm using a variable to control the camera's sensitivity. Now when we update the camera's C-frame, we also rotate the camera. Remember, we need to swap the x and y values to get the correct output. Here we also need to clamp the y direction so the player cannot just snap their neck. We can also use a modulus operator on the x-axis so it doesn't infinitely grow. Here I'm clamping the y value a bit below 90 degrees. You can change it if you want. Now when we are in first person, we can see the different accessories the player's character is wearing and the player's body. Ideally, we would want the accessories to be invisible. To do this, I'm going to create a function. Here I'm going to check if the character exists or not. If not, then we can cancel the function with a return. Firstly, to make the entire body invisible, we get all the descendants of the character and check if it is a base part or not. If so, we set its local transparency modifier to 1. Now we can add the function at the beginning of the render stepped event and make it set the body transparency to 1 if the camera is enabled and to 0 if it is not. Now we can see that it works. But there are two problems with this. Firstly, if we are in R6, we can see the face in first person. To fix this, we can just check if the descent is a decal when setting the local transparency modifier. Secondly, if you add a print at the beginning of the function, we can see that it runs every frame. This is very inefficient. To fix this, we can add a new variable called transparencyUpdated. Here, in the function, we can check if the transparencyUpdated value is true or not before running the rest of the script. And after this, we set the transparencyUpdated value to true. Now, we can set the transparencyUpdated value to false under the character added event and when the descendant added event is fired under the character. This is as Roblox slowly loads the character's appearance and some accessories are loaded after the character is added. So in post, I have realized there is a bug in here. As the function only checks for the transparencyUpdated value, if we try to change the transparency over time, then it will not work. To fix this, I'm going to create a variable called lastTransparency. Now, if last transparency is not equal to the requested transparency, then we can set the transparencyUpdated value to false. I also forgot to set the local transparency modifier to transparency instead of 1. We can see that it works. Now some might want the body to be visible in first person. To do this, we firstly change the base part check with a check to see if it's the head or not, as that's the only body part we want to be transparent. Then we add an else if statement to see if the item is an accessory. Here if it is, we check for a handle. If there is a handle, we set its local transparency modifier to transparency. Now we can see that the body doesn't rotate alongside the camera. To fix this, we can rotate the body after we set the camera C-frame. Now, when we look down, the body obstructs our view. To fix this, we can offset the camera C-frame. But now when we look down, we clip to the character. To fix this, we can change the offset depending on the horizontal direction of the character. Now the camera looks pretty good. So that's about it for this tutorial, and I'll see you guys next time.